All right, welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. I've got Natan Verhovsky at Disty Portal. Natan, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Michael. Thank you.
All right, you were on our radio show. Now you're on our television show. Before we get started with what's happened, I know there's been a lot of changes in your business since we spoke.
Yes.
Give our new audience just a flavor of what it is that your company does, what you do, and then tell us the new things that have been going on in your company since we last spoke.
Wonderful. The 2-second overview is basic. I run 5 different companies, all of which started with in 2013 a government-sponsored company that was taking a look at IT in a very unique new way. From there, we expanded and went into financing. Financing triggered and really identified a key market with us in franchising. We opened up a network hub in that capacity. And from there, once they were looking to expand and go into a new area that's difficult but yet interesting, and everybody's got a hot point, something like crypto, something like a new currency exchange, those type of areas, we were able to expand as well in that. And then from there, we were able to go into a 5th capacity as an event management and resource planning company. So we were able to put all of that together in the last couple of years, and it brought us over on CEO Money.
Great. Now, what's been happening since the last time you were on the show?
Oh, my goodness. And the last couple months with the ability to have access to millions of viewers and listeners and go that way, just through blind luck, we were able to stumble upon a couple people that had heard about us directly through you guys, and were able to become new strategic investors. People that if you were to approach directly, you're never going to be the pretty girl at the dance. You're always going to be knocking on the door outside the line going, but I'm on the guest list, I promise, and asking to come in. It's not the same. When you're introduced is very different than when you have to introduce yourself. And when people find you, my goodness, it is better than anything. So being heard from you guys, being into that capacity, gave us a new ability in a very quantifiable way. Financially, it gave us, my company, I'd say about 80% of my business is financing and giving small business loans to startup businesses that are looking to come into that array, opening up their own venture, whether it's franchising or another capacity, all the way up to large in what I used to think was large, multi-million-dollar, ridiculously large commercial lines of credit, personal lines of credit, ability to do project funding internationally. Usually that would go to the $10, $50 million range, which, you know, when you talk about $10,000 at one point and then you grow through the stages and stuff, you're talking about it the same way you talk about 10 million. It just adds a couple zeros. It doesn't change. It's got the same parameters. It's a slightly different conversation. And that blows me away from a very humble origins where I came as an immigrant and I brought myself up and built myself over. It's incredibly empowering to go, my goodness, you look behind you to see how far you've come. And you look forward and it gives you renewed strength to double down and go on that difficult path that sometimes comes up. So I look at that ability, and coming through you guys, those new investors were able to take us from that $10 to $50 million ability to commercialize and capitalize on revenue and other capacities to about 9 digits. So now all of a sudden $100 million plus is not a problem. Right. And thank you guys. I appreciate the heck out of that. It's so unique to me because before then we were focused on, like I said, we were big in franchisor, franchisee, in that entire community in that capacity. We'd never looked outside in what we traditionally as lenders look at as crazy industries. You know, and since those new introductions, there's a lot of investors that are interested to play. We've had about $130 million in cryptocurrency at a very high level company that was coming in and saying, we have clients of us, even though we write the tokens and the currency and make our own data centers and stuff in our own exchanges. We had a client come to us and say, hey, we need tens of millions of dollars of product in order to be able to facilitate data mining equipment. And then from there, we'd like to translate that and see if we could also open our own data centers. And then from there, we want to try to see if we can maybe, commercialize that and go from an ICO, an initial coin offering, to an IPO and go public. And in that capacity, before we'd met you guys, we would have said, well, we'd love to refer that business out. But since it's had the ability that we could do that in-house. So little things like that made it just tremendous to me when you guys had offered to come back on and have me speak. I really appreciate it because it tells a lot to what it does, and there's an incredible synergy.
You've just warmed my heart. I mean, that's a success story we strive for, and I guess that, could you say that we've exceeded your expectations?
Oh, 100%. It's been an incredible journey so far. Absolutely. 100%.
I had to throw that in there. All right. Tell me about this new $87 million franchise expansion. What are you doing there?
We were looking at something that's unconventional because in Canada, as you know, right now we've become legal. And in the next couple months, for something as unconventional as cannabis, it's just as unconventional as cryptocurrency. No different. And there's more than enough history. There's more than enough publicly traded companies that show that it's viable and it's interesting. It's not some, an odd conversation at a dinner table anymore. It's legitimate business. We're just trying to break in, like crypto, past those last 2 or 3 barriers, those last really big thresholds that completely change the game and make it complete public and open to everybody. So there's Canadian cannabis legal producers that were looking to expand, and in the capacity where they were offering medicinal derivatives directly straight to the government and to Health Canada, now they're able to look at that and come through us and say, can you help us with a franchising model? Can you help us look at this and understand the capacities financially? Legally, we'll take care of that. Regulations and those kind of things, we're good. We've been good for 15 years. And I'm like, thank goodness, because I couldn't help. I'm an aces in their places kind of guy, so I know where I'm good at. I know where I'm dumb at. That wouldn't be an area. And for my investors to be comfortable playing in an area that's so unique and such, we want to have at least 3 or 4 stabilized points. So them being in it for 15 years, them having those government contracts, on and on and on, those 3 or 4 stabilized points made us feel much more comfortable. When we look at that, and I remember since we last spoke, when I was on the radio, I was doing, I guess, sort of a baby TED Talk where we were talking about a 3-ring circus. And I'm sure that your listeners can go back and find that segment where we were looking at how you keep 5 different companies in completely different areas going, A, without losing your sanity, and B, without, your wife divorcing you. And in that capacity, I'm sure there's a few other
good point
CEOs that share that with me. And it's interesting because we talked about it then, and I'll allude to it. There's a couple of key points, but one of them was when all the stars line up and you have the ability, that perfect storm, and you're cognizant of it and you're aware ahead of time, your ability to be able to just like fire on all cylinders all at once and give you that 20-second extra boost that you can't sustain necessarily, but is just right there, everything at once. It's incredible. It'll let everything come together, and those type of all at once moments, if you can capitalize on them, much less monetize on them, it's wonderful. So one of those came up because of different backgrounds, different capacities that I'd had. And even though the capacity wasn't necessary when I'd met the person, going through you guys, about 2 weeks after I'd gone through your interview and that capacity changed my background with adding a couple zeros, it came up in conversation. And whew, you look like, of course, we've had it all along. We're here for you. And it's wonderful. It is wonderful when things like that come together. That person, if I can give a quick shout out, it's Chef Jason McBride. He's a celebrity chef over on LinkedIn, has about 30,000 followers. And interestingly enough, he created his own hustle hospitality company, has about 20,000 active clients in it, restaurants that contact him for a range of services from saving prices to 2 o'clock in the morning. My lights went out, my plumbing is backed up. Who the heck do I call? Do we have a friend in the network that we can trust and such? And from him, he was having such success that he had opened up a Hustle Pizza and created that as a franchisor. So now added a different hat and went about it. And it's just an incredible, incredible taking off franchise. I think they'd sold about a dozen of them or so before anyone had even tasted the pizza sauce, or just pure on reputation, because they're over in British Columbia and they're expanding through Canada. They're expanding through the US. It's huge. There's a bunch of different offers across the world. And there's so many unique things that come in that if you get to utilize all your resources. So I came in as a company that said, hey, you know what, in terms of financing, we can help in this capacity. From people coming in and buying in as a new franchisee, we can help that way. Absolutely, startup funding. But those that are coming in, you guys as a franchisor, were you looking for equipment financing, land, real estate? Were you looking for, the McDonald's model? Did you want to own it and control them that way? How are you guys looking to structure and leverage this? By the way, if you're coming into other countries, forget about the money. The money is wonderful, but if I gave you $5 million and you don't know what the heck to do with it, it's pointless for both of us. We're both going to lose it. So maybe some of my connections. and I don't have that many. It's about 5,000 or so, but they're handpicked. I'm not a lion. I'm not a LinkedIn, open networker. You called me up from a country that doesn't make sense to me, in a job that doesn't make sense, and an offer that doesn't make sense. We're not connecting. And I'm sure I could have beat 30, 40, 50,000 by now, but it doesn't make sense. That unique community of network that I can call upon is much more valuable to me.
It is to me, and you've hit on every note. I want to be able to extend this offer to you, to these superstars that are coming through your doors, that you're taking them to the next level. By all means, send them over. We'd love to talk to them.
I'm convinced that they would love to come on and give their story. Everyone's shy and bashful. It's incredible. Even my business partner, his name's Albert, and I'll butcher his last name. It's Ravacabo. He's a background Mexican descent. He's an incredible individual. He's the one who brings some of these new back-end investors and some of these things. He's the CEO of Imperial Business Solutions over in San Diego, California. And between me taking care of East Coast and Canada and him taking care of West Coast and the U.S. and both of us combining together for international expansion projects, just the most incredible strategic, alliance to a wonderful partnership level and such. And that's what I mean by putting all your resources together and seeing if sometimes you can do it. With somebody like Chef Jason, even our wives were able to create an extra company together for event management and planning because they both have ridiculous backgrounds in that. And so they were able to say, well, you guys are franchisors. You know a bunch of more of them. Whenever they're opening, whenever they're launching, whenever there's big publicity events, let us do the PR. And I'm like, and when the synergy is that much and you can put all those things together, why wouldn't you? So
yeah, exactly.
And that's where we come into it. So I remember speaking to you about those things, and it made sense at the time, and ever since it's just grown. It's a lot of those wonderful things, and of course you need to work hard and stay diligent to it. But the more you there's a great expression, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed.
Right.
In battle. That's Spartan. That's old. That's their battle creed, and it makes 110% sense that those guys that are like, you know what, I got to pay the rent. I'm busy. I'm running. I got to go get some clients. This is what it's about. Run for it, but your capacity will be limited in such a way. To those guys that say, I don't care what it takes, I don't care if I have to live in a van, I have to spend whatever length of time it takes to iron out who the hell I am, what I do, what's my unique selling prop. All those cheesy, expressions and those usages and such, we have to cover them.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, fundamentally need to cover them. And they need to sound unique. They need to sound different. You need to go into those hard dimensions, talk to those difficult people that aren't fans, that aren't cheerleaders, that don't have a thing to benefit from you, and say, it's okay, but it's really not that different from this, or maybe, and you need to internalize that. You need to suck it up. You need to get bigger and outside your ego and your id and stuff and expand. Really take it to heart and go, if that's my core target market, if that's my genuine audience, and that's the reaction I'm getting, that's true. And that's invaluable compared to what it could give you.
I agree with you 100%. Before we close, because this is, you'll be coming back on again and again and again, but before we close on this segment, give us, like we did the last time, the look around the corner. What do you think, where are you going next? Where the people that want to invest with you, the people that want to participate with you in multiple silos, tell us what you think the future holds for you now.
It's a development of where we are now.
Right.
There's ridiculous technologies, everything from graphene and high-tech fibers that we're going into that are just on a purely speculative, I'd love to invest in something like that, all the way to things that have already gone considerably further in terms of their legalization, whether we're looking at cannabis in terms of their legislation in terms of crypto, and where the U.S. is ready to make that proper. And the banks that are backing up and going, I would love to play in this. I would love to play in that. But I can't yet because of this laundry list of regulations and deregulations that'll need to come. And in that capacity, being in a position to sit tight, to have money, to have resources, and more importantly, to have contacts, to have the network in place that at the second you need to pull that trigger, wow. You don't need to wait for all the lights to turn green before you go. You just need to have those first 3 or 4 in perfect alignment.
You got it. It works. All right. Now, you have a Chinese proverb that you wanted to end the segment with. Tell us about it.
All the people that aren't 100% qualified in any capacity of this, it's something that I stumbled across, and it played on my heartstrings, and it said, you know what? I'm sure there's other owners, I'm sure there's other founders that have this as well. It's in calm waters, you catch no fish. And there's some derivatives of that. There's the Bulletproof Monk that quotes something like that, but it goes back much more than 1990s, 2000s, and such in a movie. It goes back to the 1300s, where you're looking at ancient Chinese proverbs where they originally came from, and it's everything from accepting the dirt along the way, that if it's absolutely crystal clear water, there are no fish. It doesn't work that way. The dirtiest soil is what creates the most interesting creatures, and that's where life flourishes. So that if you're waiting for everything to be 100% clean, if you're waiting for all those lights to turn green before you go, you're never going to go. And it's something that you need to get up and go and deal with it as it comes. It's never going to be crystal clean. Trying to create that environment is toxic. There are no fish in there for a reason. They would die.
Got it.
So that's the best lesson I can. The only way that you're actually going to swim with the tide is if you're dead. If you're not streaming against the stream, then it's because you're dead. So
beautiful. Well put. All right, Natan, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. We're going to have you again and again and again.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
You're welcome. You've been watching CEO Money with Michael Yorba. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, and sign up for our newsletter, our video newsletter, on our website, WFN1.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.